2010 is always that year you look at and think, with a couple of tweaks here and there, the year would have been way better than it was. It seemed like a lot of talent was on the cusp of main event stardom. Drew McIntyre, John Morrison, Dolph Ziggler, and hell, even Cody Rhodes. Sheamus was a new star and he was doing well for himself. Sure, he was pushed a bit too hard, but he was always around the upper mid-card, so you can consider him a success story. All the others I mentioned, others saw something in them and thought maybe they'll become stars. It was because they showed potential. And then there's Ted Dibiase Jr. The moment he got a singles run, he peaked. Now, fresh off Legacy, it was believed that Ted Dibiase Jr. was far off better than Cody Rhodes. Rhodes in particular seemed like the third man in the group, and his upside wasn't even close to Dibiase's at the time, because others literally thought Dibiase could be the one to end the streak. It sounds ridiculous now, but some literally believed it. Of course, if you ask somebody that now, they'll think you're on crack, but let's go back to a time where others thought Ted Dibiase was going to be a main eventer, and Edge was shouting spear constantly like a weirdo. On the April 5th, 2010 episode of Raw, Ted Dibiase Jr. came out with $1 million championship. He had resentment over his father finally acting like a dad last week and was bitter over his father not being there for him. However, he was happy about his father for once. Why? Because of a trust fund and the $1 million title. He then beat Christian in a decent match clean, and with DiBiase now a budget version of his father, he was looking for others to be his sidekick, and that's putting it nicely. Carlito, a heel, was so prideful and preferred to stay on the sidelines than to work with DiBiase, so he approached R-Truth. Just when he mentioned somebody to carry my bags, he thought of Virgil, and this immediately angered Jr., who refused to be anything similar to his father. He told him that he was going to pay him a lot of money, and Truth opted to think about it by slapping some sense into Jr. It's a new day, same old story. DiBiase talked about how R-Truth's from the streets, and sure, he makes some money, but what is he going to do afterwards? Sing? He started singing What's Up Like a Dog and said that he's going to sign a personal associate to slap some sense into him. These two crossed paths a few minutes later after DiBiase attacked Morrison for winning the match. Now, DiBiase said he was going to find some help, and because he had money, it wasn't hard. He found the Colognes who reformed, which I don't even remember, but then again, Flavor Flav's in the ring, so what do I know? Now, I don't know why they did this in 2010 of all years, but they brought back Virgil. Virgil in PG era WWE, hell, any other type of WWE not related to the Golden Era is weird. DiBiase was frustrated R-Truth turned down his money and slapped him, so he was going to do something about it. Virgil, on the other hand, was back to 1988. He was holding the ropes, putting in work, and as for DiBiase, well, their match Over the Limit is one of the matches of 2010. All that's notable is R-Truth slapping DiBiase into a KO. Poor man was seeing stars, and I ain't talking about R-Truth. He was doing nothing to no following this. All he did was complain about viewers' choice Raw and got the attention of the A-Team. Rampage Jackson. In 2010 WWE, like, what? Once again, this is the most random confrontation I've ever seen, probably. And they ended up kidnapping him with IRS. Then Roddy Piper came out all angry talking about Mr. T. Dusty Rhodes comes out, Rampage gets angry, and DiBiase and Virgil get their asses kicked. And at this point, this man had nothing better to do than ask Mark Feuerstein to make him the co-GM. It was all hard, he was acting all strong because the Big Show was in front of him, and he challenged him to a tag team match. That match goes down, Virgil takes an ass kicking, Feuerstein pinned him, then to top it all off, DiBiase was so disappointed by this performance that he stuck a dollar bill in his mouth before removing it. As a result of this, DiBiase apologized for his actions but fired him. Why? Because he had an upgrade. Maurice. Virgil's like, what are you going to do for protection? DiBiase, I'm going to go to the drugstore. Of course, with Maurice, his bad luck was turned upside down. The commentary, meanwhile, speculated whether or not she was a gold digger, and DiBiase even went as far as to call her pairing the $1 million couple. Now, who am I kidding? He was referring to himself in the Money in the Bank, or as he called it, the Money in Bank. She seemed disappointed by this, but DiBiase told her that he's going to buy her all kinds of things, and it's like nothing happened. John Morrison comes out, and he's ready to return the favor from last week because Maurice took his coat and posed with it, and he said something about her French, and so DiBiase attacked. He got overwhelmed and almost took the Starship Pain. Talk about an odd couple. The only thing they shared a common bond in was money. Morrison was whooping his ass on a weekly basis, but never in an actual match. When they faced off, DiBiase used R-Truth to steal the win, but other than that, his only win was getting Maurice by his side, because other than that, there's not much to talk about. On the September 6, 2010 episode of Raw, Maurice discovered a note which she believed was DiBiase saying he loves her. He's like, it wasn't me, and who thinks that it's for you? Man thinks everyone wants him because of his money. A couple of weeks later, DiBiase received another note. This time it said in French, next week, you'll be mine. He was getting all kinds of messages and was losing patience. Eventually, Ted believes that Johnny Knoxville, of all people, why him, I don't know, sent the messages, but this man was lost. He thought Maurice was speaking in Spanish, and the couple ended up falling on their asses. Knoxville comes out to the arena, promotes his movie quickly, and before he can make a run for it, they came out. He was apologizing, making a joke out of DiBiase, and he returned the favor. He's getting booed for the first time in months, and there's another message. And out of everyone who appeared, it was Goldust. He told him straight up that he didn't want him nor Maurice when he wanted the $1 million title. Now, Ted was titleless and had Goldust rubbing it in. So when he was ready to go after him and reclaim his title, but the problem was Oksana was fast as hell and Goldust was intelligent. Oksana's efforts got Goldust to propose, and it's of course not the only reason, but it played a part. As for those two, their issues led to a match at Bragging Rights. The match was very heated, but other than that, it's not memorable, as is this entire run. Maurice gave Oksana a beating, and in the ring, Dibiase hit the DDT to win the match. It looked like the title was back with Dibiase, but Oksana reclaimed, and he was seriously considering getting with her. But Goldust took advantage and hit the final cut. At this point, Dibiase was desperate. He was so damn desperate that he made his way to NXT in order to get the title back. This man failed for the 100th time. He was losing matches, tapping out. Everything was going bad for him until the November 2nd, 2010 episode of NXT. The mid-card stars were out to witness the wedding of Goldust and Oksana. The commentary was hilarious for this one. They didn't give a damn about anything. Josh Matthews straight up said this wedding wasn't real, but anyways, Mr. Deportation and Ted DiBiase came out to crash the wedding. Michael Cole made a joke out of the whole thing, and knowing that this would happen, Dusty Rhodes said he went to Mississippi and told this man to come to the wedding and make this couple feel good. And it was Ted DiBiase Sr. The son couldn't understand what was going on, and neither could the commentary a few minutes later, because Oksana ended up slapping Goldust and walked away. It was the most WWE wedding ever. But for DiBiase, it was a good thing. Oksana was nowhere to be found. Maurice took back the title on Raw. She's holding it. DiBiase doing work in the ring when Oksana came out and slapped Maurice before taking the title. Goldust is confused. He doesn't know what's up, and there she is. She admitted that she married Goldust for her green card and about the $1 million title. She said that because of the divorce, she's keeping half of it. He ended up reclaiming it, and at this point, Goldust had enough. He decided, no, screw it, I'm going to give it to Ted DiBiase, who was about to give it to his son, but he declined, calling it a hand-me-down. Later that night, Ted DiBiase attacked Daniel Bryan and signaled his intentions towards the United States Championship. Their match at Survivor Series was good, nothing that notable, but nice. DiBiase once again took the L, at this point it's expected, and Maurice started seeing him very differently and called him a loser. He lashed out on her, teasing a face turn, but not much came out of it. He knew that Maurice wouldn't even be near him if he was like any other wrestler. It's all about the money. Otherwise, she would have ditched him at Bragging Rights, right? It also didn't help that he barely had an entrance. The commercial break would end and he would stand in the middle of the ring waiting for his opponent. Hell, even Maurice was losing now. She blamed him for this and insulted him for losing to an NXT rookie, and I guess it was time for the pipe bomb. Michael Cole's making fun of him for claiming he could throw anyone over the top rope, and after the commercial, he's still talking. So Mark Henry came out. He got thrown out. Maurice finally carried him to victory the following week, and the next night he beat Daniel Bryan. His girl was in disbelief. She couldn't believe this man actually won a match. And at this point, Ted DiBiase was so damn optimistic. He's like, oh, Brodus Clay's going to win NXT, and we're going to become tag team champions. But then things took a turn. Why? Because when Brodus Clay won the Change Your Pro match, he decided, you know what, I'm going to actually change my pro. I don't want Ted DiBiase anymore. He even called him the brokest rich person. Alberto Del Rio was his pro now, and the first thing he does is beat his old pro. Maurice, meanwhile, was messing around to the point where she gave Todd Grisham her phone number, and he said to himself he was ready to commit adultery. The relationship was very inconsistent, and it got to a point where DiBiase wasn't really appearing on TV much. Even NXT, he was still with Maurice even though she was trying to get with others such as Yoshi Tatsu. Yoshi asked her out on a date, and DiBiase responded with no before giving him a beating. She ended up getting back with him because of his money, and later that night, DiBiase's aggression got him DQ'd. She's shouting for him to stop, and he gives her an ultimatum. NXT or me. She chose NXT. As for DiBiase, he was drafted to SmackDown. His first opponent, Cody Rhodes. He considered DiBiase ugly and handed him a paper bag, and a few minutes later ended up beating him in a match. DiBiase went on a losing streak, and this got him noticed by the very same person, and so they were back to being buddies. Cody Rhodes was gonna fix his career. The relationship was very one-sided. Cody was the clear leader. He was the better wrestler in every way, and he was literally like his boss. He's like, oh, if you lose one more match, you're gonna wear that bag. On the August 26, 2011 episode of SmackDown, Ted DiBiase faced his old teacher, Randy Orton. Cody Rhodes was out to bring Ted DiBiase's career back on track and told everyone that he believes in miracles. This match was pretty competitive, but it was Orton who hit the RKO to win it. Rhodes was frustrated with how things went and dropped DiBiase with the crossroads and even put the paper bag on him. On the final SmackDown before Night of Champions, Ted DiBiase made his return after punching Cody Rhodes. The man who's shown so much emotion and he was ready to put a paper bag on Cody's head, but he ran away. So now, he's a babyface. Of course, when it mattered most, DiBiase lost, but hey, he's a babyface now, and I'd say he was better off. For one, he didn't lose decisively here, and two, he almost never lost. DiBiase was much faster in the ring and just a basic good guy. His gimmick now was very different. No more did DiBiase show off his money, instead, it was an everyday man. On YouTube, Ted DiBiase told everyone that he wanted to be known for himself. He tried to be like his father, but it didn't work. He's a guy that hunts. He loves football and, of course, tailgating. From here on, he's going to have a tailgating party, and if he's booked on any event, the party's on. This song seemed pretty out of place now, and the fans were referred to as the DiBiase Posse. His first feud was with Jinder Mahal. Michael Cole claimed that Dibiase is broken, that's why he's hanging out with fans. And these two are trading victories before Dibiase started feuding with Hunico. Hunico was always personal with him, and the reason why the feud started was because Hunico was mad that he didn't get invited to a Dibiase posse party. They are once again trading wins, but for Dibiase, this was as good as it was gonna get. He had injured his wrist early on, now he broke his ankle. The ankle injury occurred in March of 2012 and left him sidelined for several months. He returned at a live event in July, but didn't do much until Night of Champions, which was his only pay-per-view match from here on. He participated in a pre-show battle royal. Other than that, his only other TV match was against Antonio Cesaro. He lost, of course, and he was just wrestling on live events. Creative had nothing for him, and when it was time for him to renew his contract, he decided, no, I'm not going to renew it. He announced this to everybody on August 26, 2013. Now, DiBiase's decision, according to him, wasn't a hard one. I was offered another 5-year deal. It was generous, but when it came down to it, I was battling some things internally. There's some mental health issues. I was going through depression and anxiety, and also being a new father. I just knew what I didn't have growing up. Although I had this iconic father I love dearly, he wasn't at my birthdays. He also wasn't there for my football or soccer games, and I believe the greatest asset we have in our world is time. You're not guaranteed more, and you can't get it back. That was one of the greatest gifts I could give my son. No plan, I left, and we are doing good. I thought I was going to wrestle and have a long career, but I really believe it's not what we do that defines us, but who we become along the way. I spent a lot of time while I was there trying to climb the ladder, but I realized that's not who I am. My core values are faith, family, love, wisdom, service, in that order. I was dying internally and losing sight of who I am. I love helping and serving people and also entertaining people. To be able to walk into a hospital or a base and bring a smile onto the face of a family or a veteran, that was such a blessing. There wasn't really a lot of back and forth. I think at the time in my career, it was kind of a part of me thinking I was just going to come back. I was going to figure it out, but that wasn't the case. It wasn't the usual best of luck in your future endeavors. I quit on YouTube or Twitter. I did a video and announced that I was leaving. I just wanted to be me. I wanted to let people know how grateful I was and let WWE know how grateful I was. Also, I was walking out on my own accord for personal reasons. There wasn't any back and forth. There's tons of guys sitting in the wings waiting to take that spot, and that's what makes this industry hard to get into and even harder to hang on to. DiBiase also says that his complacency after WrestleMania 26 hurt him in the long run. He was used to having a script handed to him, and he was used to everybody telling him what he was going to do. So that's his run. Personally, it was super underwhelming. He was out here trying to be his own guy, and the moment he becomes a single star, they hand him the $1 million title. His promos didn't stand out. His work in the ring was just there, and DiBiase could go. You know, when he's out there with somebody like Christian or Randy Orton, he has a good match. Other than that, he didn't really stand out. The partnership with Maurice was negative charisma. I'm trying to think of a memorable segment involving them, and it's a struggle. I kind of like the DiBiase posse because he had some sort of direction and was something different at the time. As Booker T said, he kind of gave a Tim Tebow vibe. But yeah, that's his run. Could have gone down better, but hey, it is what it is. Alright, what did you guys think of this video? Please comment down below. That's the first video. Make sure you hit the close line and like button, and perhaps the dream street on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.